guys? I'm Billy Morgan. Hey, everybody! I'm Billy Morgan.
And do I have to edit that part too, you
That's whatever.
motherfucker?
I'm Billy Morgan. I got Matt, William, Caleb, and Zion here. We are TPKhaos.
Chaos incarnate.
We are, yes, very chaotic right now for some reason. One D&D released the new Arcana. We're checking it out, having a little discussion about the different things they've put out into it. So we already did the crits and inspiration, and we're going to talk about classes. Everybody roll initiative. See who gets to talk.
Oof. For the second time, I have rolled a nat 1. This
Did you
dice
get a one?
sucks.
What you got?
You rolled another one. It just rolled another nat one.
There's no way. I quit.
When you get 2 things of inspiration.
I got 2 ones. Right, side by side.
11. All right, you guys
Rollies.
fight over it.
Oh, nat 20, which doesn't auto succeed.
Well, I have my +6. No, I'm just kidding.
What do you got?
I got a 15.
Not all right. So, hey, Zion.
Yes.
What do you think about the new classes in One D&D?
Well, the very first thing I have to say is they mentioned Rangers specifically, and I was very happy.
As they should, because Rangers are awful.
Okay, so I'm honestly very excited for what they're doing because I like the categorization they've been doing with, magic. I think they did a little bit with races, and then feats also are getting categorized in a way. And with the new class categorizations, I very much like what they're doing with this. It makes it feel like all of these characters are a bit more specialized in what they're specifically built for and shows what they're specifically meant to do. Because so far, you were supposed to kind of infer that information off of beats and their general theme. But now we have a little more specification, which just makes it feel a little more natural. Now you have an actual idea of what you would kind of want, what you might want to play if you're new to the game. And as they mentioned in the video, that this also allows people who like to have balanced builds now be able to go to a more templated version, but it also doesn't restrict us if we don't want it to. Just because they're called expert classes doesn't mean none of the other classes can be experts in something.
Who builds a character based on theme? You take a human, you take some damage, and you make a character.
And this is why the new categories are good for Matt, because he likes to have a nice balanced build that covers a little
there's
bit of
no
everything
balance
with
to it.
their
Are you
team.
kidding me?
I mean, with your team.
I don't know. I think there's a lot of speculation in what kind of new classes are going to come up with. But as far as the class categorization, I don't like it. I feel limited by it.
I don't necessarily feel limited. I just like that it almost streamlines everything a little more, especially for new players, because like with a lot of things about D&D, it feels a little difficult to get into D&D right away.
Because it's too much like
so doing these categories kind of shows people what they might want. You have your warrior. They did list off of all of these, by the way. You have your warrior classes, priest classes, mage classes, and then your expert classes, which expert class immediately makes it sound like you don't want to start playing these right away, but you honestly might if you're new to the game.
I get where you're coming from, but not an artificer. There are some in that little list that are fine. If you're a first-time player, don't play an artificer.
Well, they didn't even directly mention the artificer. They said that the artificer just is amongst the expert classes, but they didn't specifically call it out. They said
An expert,
Ranger, Rogue, and Bard are the expert classes that they really focus on.
you
but
don't
then
play
later
any
on
of
they
those.
did mention that the artificer was in there.
They did, but they weren't focused on it as much as the other 3.
But what was I going to say about that? The expert class doesn't really refer to the challenge or how hard it is.
Yeah,
or
I know,
anything.
but
It
it
just
might-
refers to learning expertise in your skills.
But it might come off as that way to a new player who doesn't understand that.
You get a higher modifier for your skills. Yeah, it's great.
Or like with me, how you said rogue is one. I have a hard time remembering every single thing my rogues do.
Really?
I
always thought it was...
Yeah,
You stab people.
I understand how it works. It's
Sneak
just
attack,
I
sneak attack.
forget a whole lot.
Rogues are.
Is this a sneak attack or is it not?
Unless you don't get your nat crits, then you just don't want to be a rogue or anything.
Oh no! If they keep that system, not to go off on a tangent, but paladins and rogues are useless. Just don't ever play them.
Yep.
Now there was one good thing about the class system, though, is they talked about taking away the capstone and replacing it with something actually useful. Because anybody who's ever read the character list, the capstone is almost always trash, and no one ever uses it.
It's either that or insanely overpowered.
There is no middle. It's either garbage or fantastically overpowered.
Well, what they said was they're going to take the capstone, bring it down to 18, which at that point I think is very good because everybody complains about the capstone of every character. You can never subclass into a different, class. And then when you do get your capstone ability, you might get to use it one time before the end of the campaign. So at least now at 18, it gives you a little bit of a gap right there to play with your capstone. And then when you hit 20, they didn't take away that from you. Now you get what they call an epic bow.
Epic boon.
Epic boon, yes. Which is just like
It's a super
high level feat. Yeah, super feat, which is pretty awesome. And then you get to choose your capstone.
Yeah,
But now-
and they have suggested ones, but you do get to choose it, which is nice.
But now, think of it this way, right? Now, unless you are playing a 30-year campaign, like some person I know, who actually is going to get to level 18 quickly? Like, we've been grinding out our campaigns, and, like, we're on 10 for mine, and, like, 9 for yours?
8 or 9.
Eight or
And
nine.
Yeah.
we're,
I think it's like
And we go quickly.
yeah, and we're, like 30
8.
something episodes in. Like, it's not a small endeavor. So you're talking how many groups are actually going to get to 18? And then you mentioned the multi-classing. You're allowed 2 extra levels.
Which is good.
Which is
then
good,
you can
but
hit
it's
the
not-
fight. You can jump into
Yeah.
fighter for 2 levels. You can jump into Tempest Cleric for 2 levels. There's a lot of
you can
good
get a little
things you
bit of
can do
things.
for multi-classing that just requires 1 or 2 levels.
Yeah, you can
Yeah.
multi-class
multi-class
into
to become
Artificer.
a hyper beam cannon.
Yeah, right? Hyper beam cannon.
You can multi-class into Artificer, get your infusions. You can multi-class into a Monk.
No
Get a couple
one
things.
multi-class into an artificer. You see me. I like to power build. It's the worst one I've ever made.
Always
All right.
multi-class into fighter and get that action search. Always.
Always.
Do that.
I am
No matter what your
considering
class
that
is.
with a lot of ideas that I have.
Okay,
Like,
so get back on topic.
We were on topic. We were just talking about how
Yeah.
trash it is.
So yeah, they also say
Oh.
they're going to have up to 48 subclasses too.
yeah. I thought
That,
that was
I'm
neat.
excited
It
to
is a
see
lot.
that. Many of them are going to be new. It seems like, or at least some of them.
now,
A
my
lot of them are
concern is,
returning.
though, for anyone who's played Dark Souls 2, just because there's a lot of it does not mean it's good. Half of them could be complete garbage, and the other half could be fine, or it could just be a mixed bag altogether.
I'm just interested to see
What they
they're
come up
gonna
with,
do,
yeah.
and especially like thematically, because if they don't come out with a dragon patron for the warlock, I'm gonna be disappointed. They've
You're
got a
asking
dragon-
too much. You're
they've got a
asking for
dragon
something
subclass
cool.
for the ranger, for Pete's sake.
No one plays Rangers, so no one
actually
even
sounds
knows
pretty
about it.
It's actually the best that
It's
they've
the
got
only.
on the ranger.
It's one of the
But,
best
it would
subclasses
be like
for Ranger.
Speaking of
You're
ranger,
like super like
what about because they mentioned this for like expertise being the expert classes. All of the expert classes are going to get expertise now. What about the universal class features in general? Like, what do you guys think of that?
See,
That's interesting.
What do you mean,
The
like
problem with the
universal class
Ranger is
Because they
features?
specifically-
said that class feature, there are going to be certain class features that are universal within a category.
Oh, within a
expert
category.
classes.
Yeah, I think
now
that's what
get
they were talking
same
about.
features.
Yeah, they were talking about that with like the feats and stuff with the class. Like they would just share that, and that's what
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
or what? Yeah, because they don't. When you go up a level, you get your ability modifier or the feat,
Obviously,
but
there
they
are,
get a pull from the same
yeah,
collection.
obviously there are some class specific features, but it sounded like there were also going to be class category features that you would just pick from as
But-
well. That or
that
that
are
everybody
not
was
like
going to
feats
get.
or anything like
yeah,
that.
it
It's
sounded
just
like, and it didn't sound like there was
abilities.
going to be just one. Like I understand the expert classes are going to get expertise as an example, but I'm interested to see like what others they do because they made it sound like there were going to be multiple expert class features.
But what does that actually do? Let's take a Ranger, for example, right? even if a ranger got several things from other classes, including expertise and, let's say, I don't know, they can hide better like a rogue. What is that actually doing for the class, though? It sounds like instead of rewriting it to be something better, they're kind of just mixing everything into a pot and letting you sort it out instead of them sorting it out.
Yeah, totally. And then you can make whatever you want. You got a pile of Play-Doh there.
I am curious to see how they do it because it is going to be weird to see a rogue, a bard, a ranger, and an artificer all with the same set of features. Like, artificer is the real weird one, but, you know, all of those are going to have the same set of features. And the warriors are going to have the same set of features. Priests and mages, they're all going to have their own categories.
Personally, it just feels
weird.
lazy.
Yeah, it feels very lazy because, like, you instead of like multi-classing in order to get the features that you want, and you're like, oh, I want to play a barbarian, but instead of having to multi-class into fire to get like action surge or something, I automatically get it since I'm a barbarian.
Well, they're probably going to have like specific features for these categories.
I'm sure, but at the same time, he's right, though. So what if they mix and match it so bad to where what you actually want is just in the same group, and you're like, I don't even have to take anything else. I can just do it.
I kind of was thinking about it from the opposite point of view, where, you're saying they just throw it all together.
Yeah.
It seems like they are dividing it more. You know, they're giving you some more options, but because they are separating it, and I almost wish they'd put it all together so that way I could, I could make a fighter class that could take a magic caster's.
We were talking about
ability,
making things easier for new players like 2 minutes ago. That would just destroy people.
Then if you got somebody more invested in understanding of the game, all they have to do is describe what they want, and you can pull it in and make it happen. You can connect those pieces.
Yeah, so what's the character that has every skill and every ability? It's called Absurd. Yeah, it doesn't work in practice.
No, that's called the Bard.
Actually, that is another thing they mentioned. The expert classes specifically are supposed to be obviously experts in their own field, but they also said they're supposed to be classes that pull from the other categories. Like they have a little bit of
so there is something like that.
The category.
Okay.
The expert classes specifically, so Ranger, Rogue, Artificer, and Bard. Those are the ones that are going to have.
So are Rangers going to become casters now?
Rangers are casters. They're just
not
casters.
Rangers, rogues.
Rogues?
They're kind of
no. They didn't. They mentioned casting for rogues and for bards and rangers, not rogues, which was weird. I can't remember the specifics on that, but it was kind of interesting. They said they were basically trying to give them a bit of like a weird balance. It's basically the all class. Essentially, these are going to be the all classes that are specializing in a
jack
specific
of all
thing.
trades or
Like
a little bit of everything.
I'd have to read it, and I'd have to read the way it's written. Whenever they released it, because like Bill said earlier, whenever they actually release the playtest, we'll of course all play it. We'll see how well it actually does in
practice.
And if it's garbage, then it is. But it can go either way. To me personally, it sounds like they're getting lazy with it. But Bill wants them to be like, pick and choose like a freaking adventure book.
I mentioned it on a couple videos ago when we did the first playthrough review. And I was talking about like I'd like to see something like skill trees.
Oh yeah,
so that could be the beginning process of a skill tree,
yeah.
and you're still giving like a certain group of players the ability to climb that tree.
If there's universal features, would they like have different choices for those universal features? So
I think you would have universal features, then you'd have class specific, race specific. You could do a bunch of stuff, and as long as like. You could make a skill tree based on all your different attributes.
Actually, now this crossed my mind. I kind of like how this is because, the Ranger or these expert classes are obviously going to have their own features each. And then they have the universal expert features that they can, I assume it's just a list of features that every class is going to get. Or maybe it's a list that you can pick from. But what I kind of like is the fact that I don't necessarily have to multi-class into these to get some of these features so that I can multi-class into the other categories. That makes it feel a little easier for me or maybe somebody else to build a multi-classed character that doesn't necessarily have to go into as many levels or dip as many levels into different
Mhm.
characters or
But
classes.
they would still like separate it by level though, because they'd obviously
Yeah.
have like you get your level 3, your 5, your 7, whatever they have.
Obviously, but if I'm thinking like, oh, I want this feature from the rogue, this feature from the ranger, and then this feature from the fighter. If I'm like, base ranger, go this many, like, let's say 3 levels into ranger, 3 levels into rogue, and 3 levels into fighter, that would be kind of annoying because I now have to wait 9 levels to get everything I want.
But what you're
if I
talking
go,
about
like,
is
if I just have to go like instead 4 levels into ranger or rogue and then 3 levels into fighter, that drops the list down to 2.
I don't think that's how they're going to do it, though. Because you're
It
talking about
depends.
getting 3 specific abilities from 3 separate classes. I don't think they're going to let you pick more than one. I think what it's going to be is like once you get to a certain level, you get a small list of what you want to choose, and you only get one.
No,
And
I don't think so. I think,
These gonna
like
be-
you were saying, well, whatever level you have, even if it's in that category, you can pull from skills based off of that level.
Kind of
So
like
it doesn't
the-
matter if you split it up into 3. You can get 3 different skills from each
Are
category.
they going to make
but
it similar to like how warlocks work with their eldritch invocations, where like you get a certain list of their skills that you can have?
I think
that
so.
as you
Something
level
similar
up.
to
but
that.
you'd still only get one, though.
But no, there would be multiple, is what I'm saying. Like you
I
go
don't
up
like
9
multiple
levels in
choices.
one class, and then you
Yeah.
get several different choices and skills that you can take from that
That
pool. Or if you take a bunch of small ones and you get up to like, say, you get one at level 3 in that.
Imagine
Okay,
what I can
group.
do with like unlimited.
Well, you balance it.
Yeah, I mean, you
Yeah.
would hope.
That's why we
a little-
play
I
test.
would ruin your game, Billy.
Okay,
You do
so-
anyway.
Okay, so we're running low on time. So real quick, one more thing I wanted to say is that I like the suggested spell list for casters now. I like that they did that because that just allows for new players to get in even more. I just like the more accessibility for new players. But with that in mind, since we're running low on time, final thoughts?
I like the idea of like the like class group specific magic items instead of just class specific ones that existed.
I liked that too.
I think they're getting lazy. They just don't want to write individual lists.
That's fair.
Something they did mention, one last thought, was ritual casting for
Oh, yeah.
class spaces.
Oh, yeah.
So they came out and said that if you can cast the spell and it has a ritual tag onto it, then you can cast that spell as a ritual, which I and a lot of other people I talked to said that they thought that was the rule anyway.
Apparently, you had to unlock that ability.
Yeah, you had to be able to do rituals through, I guess, the feat. So I don't know. What do you guys think about that one?
When you write your new rule set, make sure it's clear and concise. Thank you.
Yes, that's what I always say. Please make it clear.
Clarification is key.
We be dumb and we like easy stuff. All
Yeah.
right, bye.
Bye.
Monkey brain love.
Like, comment,
Simple word.
subscribe.
Thank you guys for checking out today's video. We post videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for more glorious D&D content. Please like, comment, subscribe, throw it all down below. We always appreciate it, and we will see you guys next week.